Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, 10th January 2022, and we are back ready for a new year of perspectives, and hope you are as well. Welcome to our broadcast. Those of you, the entities joining us and streaming live, MTV on air and online, we thank you and we welcome you once more. Mikey Live, Sister Isle in Carriacou. Good morning to the brothers and sisters out there, Carriacou, Pity, Martinique. We say good morning to those of you streaming on Partygrenada, TNR Communications, our own Facebook page, wherever you are this morning. Welcome to you. I guess you're seeing us for the first time, so the right thing to say is Happy New Year and welcome. I am Brenda Batiste, and it's a pleasure to welcome again with us our expert talk panelist, Senator Christopher Diali and Mr. Byron Campbell. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Brenda. Good morning to all our viewers and listeners on the Perspective sites. And I want to also join with you in wishing everyone a good 2022. And of course, to make the best of our situations. As we not like to say, we're in a new normal with change in variants and all of that and so on. But we have to learn to live with this new normal in whatever way we can. So happy to be here, happy to start a new year and to discuss the issues around us and see how things go.
Senator,
Indeed.
morning all. Again, I join my colleagues to wish all, and all the platforms, all the media, all the listeners, viewers, the best 22. Happy New Year, productive, prosperous 22, healthy 22, most of all. Some persons I spoke to said, look, just wish me good health, and I'm good. The rest will come. Kind of makes sense. But yes, Chris, Brenda, I agree that it's an interesting year. A lot of expectations, high expectations, everyone. Maybe elections, maybe, I don't know. We are hopeful.
A lot of politics. Barbados have a lot of things going on. Prime Minister Miyamoto, I think elections is next week or this week? Next week?
The 19th.
Next week.
19th.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that one took me by surprise, though.
Yeah, I think all of us.
Barbados, you know.
And they have put out some interesting stuff. We could probably touch it a little later. I know we have Dr. Alexis waiting in the wings. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So this morning, of course, we are waking up again, and folks are, COVID is occupying, or much like we started 2021, it seems like we're starting 2022. But we need to understand just what's happening around us, especially as it relates to all the new variants and so on and so forth. And this morning, our special guest panelist is a Grenadian daughter. She is going to be speaking to us this morning all the way Southern California. It's kind of like after 3 a.m. in the morning. So she's really waking up to do public service. And for that, we thank her. And we welcome to our first guest for 2022 to Perspectives, Dr. Malara Alexis. She's an infectious disease specialist and a consultant. And we say good morning to you, Dr. Alexis.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Brenda. Good morning. Gentlemen, thank you for having me on your program again. I wish you and the viewers and listeners a happy new year, a happy 2022, blessed 22, healthy 22. God's blessings.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Alexis. The thank you is really for you, who, taking off your time to wake up so early to speak with us this morning. So, Dr. Alexis, we seem to be having these immune evasive variants, so to speak, as the COVID-19, the pandemic, it rolls on. And I'm sure you are aware of our own situation here in Grenada. I just wanted to talk to us a bit, about as I mentioned, the immune evasive variants, and just what and why, all of this is happening at this time.
Well, unfortunately, this SARS-CoV virus, we just call it the coronavirus for short, to make it simple, behaves like some of the other viruses in that it changes what we can call its structure. We are familiar with the picture of the virus with these little spikes, and these spikes are made up of proteins. And unfortunately, what's happening is that the proteins that are there, the building blocks of the proteins are changing. And so each variant is behaving a little differently. And so we had the original type, and then we had, the other ones that we're familiar with, the alpha, beta, gamma. the Delta, which we all know about, and now we're with the Omicron. And so each of them have their own particular characteristics because of change of the amino acids on the surface of the virus. And so, they have their own way of behaving. So, for example, preliminary data is telling us that this Omicron variant is more transmissible, more infectious, and we're seeing the numbers in Grenada sharp rise, and around the world we are seeing a sharp rise. It's more transmissible than some of the previous variants.
Yes, Doc, good morning, and of course, pleasure to have you, and Happy New Year to you as well. I want to refer you, there was an article I was reading recently out of Massachusetts that was speaking about the Omicron variant in particular. And the gentleman and the doctor there was talking about the fact that because of its infectious nature, it will tend to infect almost everybody. And of course, those of us who are vaccinated will fare better than the unvaxxed. But the question, or what the doctor was proposing, is that with this new variant, it's going to, because it's going to be so infectious and everybody's going to get it, you're going to get to a point of herd immunity rather quickly, and it's going to suppress what is happening with Delta. Are you of that opinion, or you share similar views with this article that I was picking up?
Well, there have been thoughts about this, that because it's so transmissible, that maybe this may be the variant that would give us, herd immunity and give us a little help with this pandemic, and that's possible. I can't say for sure that this will happen. This pandemic has just worked in ways, it's been longer than most of us were hoping. So maybe we would hope, and what I would say is that also the preliminary data is showing that this variant, the disease that is caused, the severity of the disease is not as great as, for example, the Delta. So the hope is, and maybe it may happen, that we may have more people getting infections, mild infections, and we can get more people getting to herd immunity. But again, we don't know, because although the severity of the disease we are seeing generally is less, it is still causing severe disease. We are seeing a lot of people here in the hospitals where I'm working, still on the ventilator, still dying. So we don't want people to get sick. We don't want people to get sick so that we could get immunity, because we are still having people on the ventilator still dying. And then we have to think about long-haul COVID, where you have chronic symptoms of COVID. And then we have to think about people whose immune system are not as good, or people with risk factors who are getting this variant, getting more severe disease. So although, we would want to come to a scenario where we have a very mild variant, so maybe people get herd immunity, we don't want to say, well, hopefully everyone will get it, and then we get to this point, because we know that there are very severe disadvantages and risk of many people getting this disease, which would be one, people are still ending up in the hospitals, people are still ending up in the ICU. We have to think of long haul COVID. We have to think of people with severe risk factors, risk factors for severe disease. And all of these things, when we take that into consideration, we are hoping that it doesn't spread through the community, but we'll see how it goes.
So, Doc, the follow-up question to that, of course, is that hospitalizations are we seeing in some of the more advanced countries are seriously increasing. Most hospitals have been inundated with a lot of people coming down with, and the thought here is Omicron versus Delta. So the question is, in Grenada's context, where we've seen what we know referring to as our second wave, presumably because of Omicron, are we to expect that our hospital will get a certain level of inundation with cases?
Well, that's possible, because it is true that, the preliminary data that came from South Africa, where this variant, where first cases of this variant were found, they're saying that thankfully they're seeing they don't see as severe mortality, as severe respiratory disease and things like that nature. but there are still hospitalizations. The fact that this disease is so transmissible, it means that more and more people can get this disease. And if more and more people get this disease, it may come to the point, and we will have to expect at some point that we would start to see hospitalization. I'm not saying that this is what I'm hoping for, but this is how we have to look at it realistically. Even though it may not cause a severe disease and there are fewer hospitalizations, that's what a lot of the studies and the data from some of these nations are showing us. The fact that it's so transmissible, it means more and more people will be getting infected, or could be getting infected. And if that happens, we can expect and we should prepare for more hospitalizations. And unfortunately, we should prepare for more death. This is not what we are hoping for, but this is something we would have to, keep in our minds that can happen because it is so transmissible.
Doc, good morning. And I want to wish you the best for the new year.
Thank you.
In our local situation, I just want to follow from Senator Diali that in Grenada, we've more or less returned to normal in terms of workplaces. Schools are reopening today fully, for example. In most cases, there are some protocols. We've been averaging numbers between 250, 300 new infections a day based on testing. What's the projection? How is this likely to go, and our mitigation measures? What would you advise at this point? I mean, are you seeing a significant second wave emerging, and what is your projection on these numbers?
Well, thank you for the question. I think we are in a second wave in Grenada, unfortunately. And if we continue with this wave, we, in the future, may be seeing hospitalizations and deaths. And again, this is not something that we are hoping, and no one is praying that would happen. But if we continue with this wave, we are seeing the numbers, I'm seeing them 300, 200 and something new cases a day. If we continue like this, we can expect hospitalizations and death. And so therefore we are reminding ourselves about the things that we've been saying all along about wearing masks, and not just any mask, but a mask that fits us. We need to adjust the mask so it fits our face well and it's over our nose and over our mouth. We need to be reminded of avoiding crowds. We need to be reminded of the social distancing. It's a difficult thing when you see people and you want to be near them, but we have to be reminded about the physical distancing and circulation, opening our doors, opening our windows, because transmission on the outside tends to be lower than in crowded areas where there's poor ventilation. So again, correct use of the mask, well-fitting mask, avoiding crowds, staying away from crowds, doing our 6 feet social distancing, making sure we have good circulation in where we are, in offices, in our homes. If we can open the windows, open the doors, make sure there's good ventilation, hand hygiene. These are the things that we've been saying. And then again, vaccination is so very important, particularly the booster doses of vaccines. And what the scientific literature is showing us is that people who have had COVID-19 before, the other strains, are still coming down with reinfection with Omicron. But when they get vaccinated after being infected, and when they get a booster dose after they have gotten their first 2 doses, they stand a better chance with this Omicron. And that's why we are continuing to encourage vaccination, even among people who have had COVID-19, because the data, if you look at data from South Africa, it's showing people in this 4th wave in South Africa, many of those persons, I should say some of those persons this is not their first go around with the COVID-19. So we continue to encourage vaccination, along with the other things, a good healthy lifestyle, plant-based diet, staying away from sugar, exercise, water, rest. These are the things we're encouraging.
Doc, children, a very vulnerable group in our population. Locally, as I mentioned earlier, schools are reopening some extent today. We have low intake of vaccination among the age group that is available to. And also we have an age group, as you're aware, where there's no vaccine available. Children travel on public buses. I mean, it's very difficult to get children to exercise social distancing. I mean, it's not within the difficulties in doing that. And the reports in the schools is that we find that a lot of the young persons, children, are have to be reminded of basic protocols like face masks and other measures. How vulnerable is this group? And again, what is your take? What is your advice on how on the best method going forward to ensure that we have minimum casualties among the children?
Yeah. So indeed, for adults, it's difficult. Many of us to be, keeping to obey the rules, and much less children. It's difficult for children to we appreciate and understand. And so as adults and people who are around children, we need to be there to be encouraging them, reminding them of the need for masks and hand hygiene, things like that. We know for children, they're so used to hugging and playing, sometimes it's difficult, but we need to be encouraging them as much as possible to be following the rules. And I have said before, I think on this platform, and I say again, is that those who cannot be vaccinated because of maybe a severe allergy or because they fall into an age group where a vaccine is not yet authorized for them, those of us who can be vaccinated can form a bubble around them. And so that those who cannot be vaccinated for their age, for a particular like a severe allergy to the vaccine, if those of us who can be vaccinated, if we are vaccinated, we form like a bubble or fence around those who cannot be. So we encourage the children as much as we can with the mask and hygiene and avoiding crowds and things like that. But as those of us who can get vaccinated, we form a fence, a protection around them to help reduce the spread of this terrible disease.
Yeah. Dr. Alexis, globally, it seems that we're seeing lots of reinfections in this new wave of COVID. Many people have had COVID once before, even twice they are contracting COVID again. Why is that happening?
Yeah, very important question. So what is going on here is that, again, the key that this virus has to infect us is not found on the spike protein. So when we see the picture of the virus, we see these like spikes or sticks out of it. This is like the key that the virus uses to get in. And so when it changes and you get another variant, it changes the key. So we think the key changes a little bit. And so therefore, if we have immunity from a previous infection or from the vaccination process, because the key that this new variant has is a little different, sometimes it tends to evade the immune system to some extent. Okay, so the key that the virus uses in each variant is a little different. So the antibodies or the proteins that my body would have made from a prior infection, and sometimes even from the vaccination process after a period of time, because the key is different that the virus used, it doesn't work as well. But we have hope, because again, the new studies we are seeing from Israel and in the New England Journal of Medicine, what they are telling us, are showing to us, is that even people who have been vaccinated, if they've been vaccinated at a period of time, like a few months passes, 5-6 months passes, their immunity starts to wane. But once they get that boosted dose, it reduces the chance of them getting severe and critical COVID, even with these new variants. And it's again the same thing for somebody who has had COVID before. Some people still have had COVID before, so I'm fine. And unfortunately, that's not so, as you said, Brenda. People who have had COVID before are getting it again because the key or the spike protein that the virus has on its surface changes. And so when we get a booster dose after we've been vaccinated, and when we get vaccinated, even after we've recovered from COVID, we increase our chance of us being able to destroy this Omicron variant that has now come on the scene. Again, even though the virus is changing, we are still saying that the data is showing that the boosters and the vaccinations are still working. Maybe not as great as the original virus, the original strain of this virus, but it's still working, particularly in reducing hospitalizations and deaths. So people may still be getting some symptomatic disease, mild disease, but it's still giving good effect in reducing hospitalizations.
Right. And that's a discomfort, and that seems to be the argument, Dr. Alexis, because traditionally we are kind of cultured and experienced to how vaccines work, in that you get a shot and whatever it is, the shot seems to either eliminates the possibility of you getting whatever it is, like something like polio, or the protection is so high, like the flu shot, you need it once a year, you don't need it anymore. And this situation here with the vaccine, because everyone thought, okay, all right, we're getting a vaccine, even though they explained to us what it was going to do, but then we need to get more and more and more because more variants are popping up and all of that. And you just mentioned there that even, it wanes after a while, the immunity we get from the vaccine. So the healthcare system versus the subservient pharmaceutical business, Dr. Alexis, just indulge me for a minute. The argument that medicine is a business, and a very powerful one at that. So when you look at that, and this argument that seems to be growing, and is even becoming political in some spheres, I mean, how would you address this? What would you say to people?
Yeah, I hear the comments from people that, this vaccine is just a business to kind of exploit and make money off people. And it is true that the persons who, have, the manufacturers of the vaccine would make an income. But the data that we are seeing is showing us that the vaccine is working. The vaccine is working. We know that, unfortunately, the immunity is not holding up as long as we would like it to, but when we get a booster dose, it is working. And it's the same thing, for example, with the influenza virus. Every year, I have to get the influenza vaccine because it's the same thing. The influenza, this virus, it changes its structure, so every year we have to adjust. And it's unfortunately just how some of these viruses operate. They don't stay the same. The influenza virus, the SARS-CoV virus that causes COVID-2, they don't stay the same. And unfortunately, we're getting so many variants in this short period of time. So because they change so quickly, we have to adjust our medicines to suit. And the data is showing that these vaccines are working. Now, some people choose to focus on the fact that there are people who make money because of the development of the vaccines, but when you look at it from a health point of view, we are seeing that the vaccines are working and we are grateful for them. And the people who invest their time and their energy and so forth into making the vaccines, they are compensated for that. I don't want to get into the economics of it. They are compensated for that. We do acknowledge that, but the product that they have provided for us is working against their hospitalizations and death. And as people, as we focus on that, it would help us to understand that this is this is part of the way forward, along with masks and distances and a healthy lifestyle diet and things like that. We can't just focus on the fact that, okay, pharmaceutical companies are making money. That is true, but they're also helping us to preserve lives.
Thank you for your indulgence. Gentlemen.
Yeah, Doc, after listening to you and what we're seeing happening in the world with all these variants, I am forming this opinion that, going forward this year and probably into the other years, we have to learn to adjust to live with these viruses and probably other variants that's going to come. We have a possible solution, probably not 100% effective, but vaccinations. And this is something that as people and as nation, we have to look into and understand. But to me, the biggest challenge we're going to face is behaviors. and behaviors of the individual and how we deal with that. And I hear you talk about, continuing to observe all the protocols we have. But, I am still concerned, Doc, and I'd like to hear your opinion on how we really change people's behaviors to understand that they are the ones, this virus needs a host to move along and to transmit. How do we get people to adjust to understand that, this is something that we're going to be living with, and we need to adjust our behavior patterns?
Yeah, it is true. We have to keep working every day and reminding, sometimes we get like COVID fatigue. COVID fatigue is a real problem. We're tired of the mask. We're tired of not being able to interact the way we used to. It's a different world. And even there's this, if I can just add, there's this thought, sometimes people are saying, I hear people say, oh, well, this new one, it's not causing, bad disease. So we don't really have to worry so much. So they may not say it in that way, but the way they talk, you get the impression that they feel it's okay now, it's Omicron, and it's not as bad as Delta. So sometimes people tend to relax because, okay, I'm not seeing hospitalizations, I'm not seeing deaths, so maybe things are calming down. Well, we hope they are, but we still are saying that this variant is causing hospitalizations and deaths. So we have to remind ourselves, our families, we continue with the public service announcements about the masking and good ventilation, avoiding crowds, not having close contact with people. And this is difficult because human nature is all about being in close contact, especially when you haven't seen someone for a while, and hand hygiene and taking care of our health, our diet. So it's just a matter of reminding, and everyone needs to be reminded. We need to be our brothers, sisters keepers, and just kind of remind others in love when we see, things are not going the way they should. We do it in love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Doc. Clearly, what we're seeing in our jurisdiction here is that the emphasis for control of the virus is now placed squarely, entirely on individual behavior. We are asking individuals to take personal responsibility in terms of obeying protocols, their behavior, what they do, when they do, and so forth. Whereas previously we saw interventions of restrictions as a means of control. Do you believe that there should be a mixture of both, or what is your view on methods going forward, particularly in our environment, our location?
Yeah, so very good question. So we as individuals need to take responsibility for our health. I cannot, for example, expect, for example, a police officer to, spend all day looking to see who's wearing a mask. I need to be responsible as an individual. So there is a certain amount of responsibility that lies on us, as Grenadians, wherever we live. We need to take responsibility for our own actions. We need to understand, listen, I need to wear a mask, and shouldn't need to have somebody breathing over my neck to tell me that. I need to understand I shouldn't have too many people up here in my house because, this is a COVID season. I shouldn't be a crowded situation. So as individuals, we take responsibility, and then we have our public health officials who would look at the numbers and would say to us, okay, according to what they're seeing, if the numbers are increasing, they may decide based on what we are seeing, maybe we need to have some interventions of certain things and limit certain things. So it is indeed a mixture. We, as citizens, we take responsibility by doing what we can. And then we have our public health officials, those who look at the data and who decide, okay, we need to put something else into place here because we're having this thing going a little bit out of control. So really and truly, we need to take a lot of responsibility for our actions. And then again, public health officials would look at the data and see if there needs to be intervention to assist us where things may be going a little bit out of control.
Right.
Thanks.
Dr. Alexis, before you go, with everything new that is happening and these immune evasive variants and so on. And really and truly, we really don't know what's to come. Just projections from you people in science and public health and so on. How does that strengthen or weaken the case for vaccine mandates? Because so many different things are happening.
Yes, a very excellent question, because people want to know that what you're doing is working. And so data always helps with that. Let me just quote here some figures here. So from the New England Journal of Medicine, what we are seeing, this came out just on the 7th, just a couple of days ago, and what they're saying is that the data is showing that people who have recovered from COVID and then they get vaccinated, so you had COVID in the past and then you get vaccinated, that increases your immunity against a reinfection. And people who have been vaccinated, they got their 2 doses and then they got a 3rd dose, a booster dose, the ability to neutralize or to destroy the Omicron variant has increased. So, although we are acknowledging and we are saying with the Omicron variant, the effectiveness of the vaccine is reduced somewhat, we are still establishing the point, and we are strongly saying that when someone has had COVID in the past and then they get vaccinated, so you had COVID in the past, your body has some immune response. Now, if I get not vaccinated now, that helps to increase my immune response. Or if I'd had like 2 doses of AstraZeneca or Pfizer, and then I get my booster dose at the appropriate time, when now they do the studies, we are seeing that the activity against Omicron is increased, and therefore the vaccine is working. So we are still saying, as scientists and as physicians, we are saying that the vaccines are working. It may not have the 90% efficacy that it had with the original strain of this virus, but they are still working. And where I'm at the hospital here, when the patients come, I hear, okay, can you see this patient is COVID, unvaccinated, COVID, unvaccinated. And we don't say that to kind of like belittle the person, but we are just kind of, I guess, reminding ourselves that these people who are coming into the hospitals, there's so many unfortunately on the breathing machine there, in my hospitals there, most of them are unvaccinated. So the data is showing us that vaccination works. If you've had it in the past, you've had COVID in the past, you're still eligible for a vaccine going down the road to boost your immunity. If you've had 2 doses already, you're eligible for a booster dose. In about 5 months, they have turned it down to 2, so it is still working. It's still working. So that strengthens the point that now I know that the mandate, this is a whole new topic for a whole new day. I know that. I am saying here that vaccination is still working. It is still working.
All right. Anything from you, Senator Daly?
No, I am like the doc, I support mandatory vaccinations in certain aspects. For example, our school children between 12 and 17, and I suppose we'll discuss that on the program another time.
Yeah.
But schools opening and the possibility of having our children exposed to this new variant, I think, and as you just said again, Doc, and you reiterated, those of us who are vaccinated and boosted stand a better chance of not getting, severely ill and causing problems on the system. And in such a way, we should encourage that. In my view, that's my view. I believe we should mandate it in certain aspects of our society. For example, our school children between 12 and 17. And to protect them, and of course the teachers and the support staff as well. So I just think that is another discussion we'll have to have and see where we get with that. But I believe, like you, that if we have a possible solution that can offer relief, then we should take it. So.
Yes, and if I may just add, mandates is a very ticklish topic. We would hope that everyone can see the benefit of it and choose to get the vaccine, but we know that's not going to be the case. We wish we can talk to people so they can see the benefits and choose. And we hope that, we don't have to say, you take this, you take this, you take that. I know the topic of mandating vaccines is very, very ticklish. We'll take it on another time, maybe.
Anything from Mr.
I'm
Campbell?
good.
All right. Well, Dr. Alexis, thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. And you know, one of the concerns over the last week or so, we really had lots of voices here being raised about schools and all of that. And schools are reopened today, and people are going back. So lots of parents probably tuned in this morning, you know, with heavy hearts or even with little concerns. What would you say if you had to advise anyone or just speak to a parent this morning about why their child it might be safe at school or should be safe at school or is safe at school? What kind of scientific advice would that be?
Yeah, so yeah, you know, there's never a love like the love of a parent for the child, and you know, they're always concerned and worried. We just do the best we can. We remind them about their masks, remind them about social distancing, and we, most of all, we trust God. We do the best that we can, you know, wear our masks. We have our children wear their masks, reminding them of the importance of wearing the mask, reminding them of not, you know, congregating and crowding up and things like that, doing the best we can. And we trust God to do what we cannot do when we are not there. And then again, those of us who are eligible for a vaccine or for a booster, we strongly encourage that. And with the data is showing us that it is working. And although although this Omicron, we haven't seen, from the reports that I'm getting, it doesn't look as if we have had additional deaths from the 200 persons from our first wave, and the hospitalization, you know, rate is, last time I saw it was at 0. I don't know if it has changed over the past few days, but we're still wanting to avoid this one because it still has the potential of causing hospitalizations and deaths. So parents, we pray, we do the best, we trust God, we wear our masks, we do what we can do, and we allow God to do the rest. We are vigilant, you know, we don't just say, well, I'm just praying and whatever. We do the best we can. We are vigilant, we observe things, and we trust that God would assist us as we go through the second wave here.
All right. Thank you so much for assisting us, walking us through this morning so gracefully and elegantly and eloquently. We definitely appreciate you, Dr. Malara Alexis, Grenadian, Dr. Malara Alexis, infectious disease specialist and consultant out there in Southern California. Have a great day, Dr. Alexis. Trust you can go back to bed now and get some sleep for your day ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the program. It's a privilege and a pleasure always to be of service to my country. Thank you so much. God bless you.
We appreciate you. Thank you so very much. All right, listeners and viewers, we've been speaking there with Dr. Malara Alexis, infectious disease specialist and consultant. We take a quick break. Perspectives. We'll be right back.
Get vax. It's your best shot. Hello.
A message from the Ministry of Health.
For persons with symptoms of COVID-19, testing is done within 5 days of the start of symptoms using a SARS-CoV-2 antigen test. If the result is positive, individuals are required to isolate for 14 days. Day 1 of isolation is the day of confirmation with a positive test. Retesting is not required for release from isolation. Once persons complete the required 14-day isolation, they can resume normal activities, observing routine public health protocols. If the result is negative, a PCR test will be done for confirmation. If the PCR test is positive, the individual is required to isolate for 14 days as above. If the PCR test is negative, the individual will be released from quarantine and can resume normal activities observing routine public health protocols.
Welcome back to Perspectives 2022. It's a pleasure to be back with you. If you're just joining us, good morning to you and welcome to the broadcast. So, gentlemen, there we had it, our interview with Dr. Alexis, just about, how this new strain is behaving, and she did provide some really good information that I trust will be useful in deliberations here by our officials, and also some education for our public, and just allay some of the fears and concerns people are having, especially with the interactions at schools, which begins today.
Yeah, Brenda, I am of the view that, this behavior, we need to adjust, because I don't see us locking down either in businesses or as a country to deal with this surge or this wave that we're going to be having. I think all of us as individuals, as Dr. Alexis indicated, we have to take our responsibility to adjust behavior patterns, do the proper things. We know there's, if you wear your mask effectively and properly and you do the social distancing and all of that, it can reduce, the rate of infection. And that is something we have to be concerned about. And, a lot of us in the community, whether it's hotel or whether it's private business, we have the view that, we need to continue operating. People need to continue to live. People need to earn a revenue, do things. The economy needs to keep going. So, to me, it's about adjusting your behaviors and, not congregating in large crowds without having certain protections.
Yes.
And, I'm going to switch the pendulum a little here. We are going to be headed into a political environment this year. We see what's happening in Barbados with Prime Minister Mia Mottley and our snap election. But what you're not seeing, which is interesting, is large gatherings of the voters in these large campaign activities where they're on stages and artists come in and so on and so forth. So obviously that mechanism of how you get to the voting populace to excite them about your policies and so on to vote for you is changed or will be changing. And I suspect the same thing is going to happen in Grenada when our Prime Minister announces that election time. And it is going to be an interesting change to see how our politicians are going to excite their base through virtual means or other means. Because, culturally, we like to go to an event and meet people and chat and dance and eat and drink and so on. So it's going to be interesting how that new form of campaigning is going to excite the base. So, it's, as Byron said, I think we in for an interesting year to look at all of these variants. Not COVID variants, political variants.
I like that. Political variants, Senator Deali. Just coined something new this morning. Political variants. Picking up on the political variants though, I was paying close attention to Barbados this week once she announced it and they started to campaign. And that excitement you speak about. So I'm here in Grenada and I'm looking online at these rallies. They have been exciting. What the Barbadians have been able to do is clear that Mottley and her team has gotten professionals to produce their events.
Right.
So even after the people in the physically distanced audience, the face-to-face ones, right, they're mostly party hacks. So they like the representatives, her cabinet, special interest groups and so on. But the people who cannot come in, the thousands who would normally be there cheering in their t-shirts and flags, what they have created is those people's voices. So after a speech, you would hear the big "Ray," electronically. And it is visually stimulating, very appealing. What it does as well is give you a chance to take out the meat from the bone, because there you have to listen to what is being presented without much of that sort of distraction. But I think I got the excitement, like last night I looked on as they released their manifesto, and they did it in a really interesting and really nuanced way that really captivated. Yes, and the thing about it is you can see every bit of that thing is scripted. Every bit of it. And that is a level that people here needs to rise to for events, for politics, for business, for everything, because we're not going back It's going to be blended going forward. But that online experience, that virtual experience, that's where it is.
Well, I mean, just to
Yeah.
talk on the blended part, I still believe our constituency reps, when they announce it here in Grenada, who will be representing which constituency, will still have to do a certain level of face-to-face.
Yes,
to
for
excite
sure,
people
for sure.
and to get them to,
For sure.
But it's going to be limited, so the
Sure.
work is probably going to be hard. Like I had to meet a lot more people in smaller groups than in the huge groups that we used to talk about. So
Yeah.
and blend it with what you were
Yeah.
just saying and properly script it. So I think it's going to be very interesting, Byron. I see it as,
But too, Mr. Campbell, it probably would be if they make it, it could be really that the intimacy of the campaign could be very powerful. Because, for instance, if you cannot meet a 5,000 crowd in a rally, so you're Byron Campbell and you're the representative for St. George Northwest.
Northeast.
No, I thrown you in the Northwest. I thrown you by Doc. And you're the representative for St. George Northwest. You probably would want to meet your youth separately. You'd probably want to meet your business people. You probably want to meet your farmer and fisher. You probably want to meet your just special interest. You probably want to meet your elderly. You probably want to just target your little groups and just talk to them about and then make it specific to them. That can be something that's strengthening, where you don't have the big crowds and all of that. That intimacy, that small, that touch, that could be something that's very powerful if used well.
and advantageous.
Yeah.
I'm listening to a lot of politics this morning. Somehow this morning I don't want to talk politics.
Especially as I throw you in the Northwest, right? You change your mind.
Somehow agriculture is on my mind. Can I talk about agriculture?
Sure, let's talk
Let me just comment on this first. I was having a discussion yesterday with a number of young persons, and what they pointed out is along the lines you're saying. So they're saying, look, they in their opinion that social media is going to dictate the messaging and the information and the reaction and the convincing and everything else, And I was arguing, I said, well, the house and touch and base will also remain very important.
Correct.
To you. And the point you're making, Brenda, is that you'll have to target certain specific groups or institutions.
Make it targeted.
I agree. So politics clearly would be on our agenda for the foreseeable future.
But isn't politics always on our agenda?
Agenda.
Oh my God,
it is.
too much.
But I wanted to make a few points on agriculture that I think is important.
Is the year of implementation and what?
And innovation.
And innovation.
Yeah.
Good one. Good one.
Three things. Three points I want to make on it. Let me deal with a very positive one first. That the GOG is in receipt of $3 million to undertake a number of farm access road. The first three, the drawings and designs are already completed. Engineering consultants are working, and so this is like to go to tender shortly, the next couple of weeks. So I'm excited about that, and 13 are targeted for this year. I can tell you on that. And it's the procurement processes are ongoing. So I think this is good news for the farming community in terms of local employment, certainly. But the important thing is access to these farmers. And 13 is a nice number. And there's also from the CDB $2 million to assist with irrigation, innovative irrigation. And there's a team going to carriacou this week to look at the ponds and how they can be rehabilitated. And this is something to be excited about, because in carriacou there's a lot of competition for water from construction and agriculture and for households, and with the desalination plant it's doing a good job but not inadequate. So this is something happening. But in that sector I want to talk a little about predial larceny. And it's rampant and is really out of control, and it needs, I think a bit more attention needs to go. Here's a scenario. This over the holidays, a female farmer who produces scythe and thyme, her fields were raided. I mean, her entire production for the Christmas season was stolen, and she lost her livelihoods, her livelihood. And you didn't hear much about it. It didn't make the news or anything happen. But a gas station was raided, and I think $600 or $700 was stolen. And it made headline news. It made the front page of the newspaper. This person, they would have had insurance. They would have lost anything. I'm saying we're dealing with these crimes differently. And I think more resources need to go behind, to support prettier larceny in terms of the culprits. And we need to look at the laws, whether it's mandatory sentences, but deterrence as is inadequate. I just think we need to give more focus on it. It is affecting a lot of people, and it has a negative impact on agriculture. It is demotivating a lot of persons who otherwise will be involved in production and earning their livelihood. So this particular, it was very heartbreaking over the holidays to experience this and to know about this. The other point I want to make briefly is that we did a few days ago a little recce in the village looking at wildlife. At night, we cover a certain distance and we expect to observe a certain amount of carriacou. And it's alarming, and I think what's happening in our village is probably around the island, because what you have now is a lot of commercial hunters, meaning that they're using pellet guns. They're very accurate, and their numbers are high in terms of what they're capturing. The same thing is happening, and this is for economics, same thing is happening for crayfish in our rivers, that we may have to look at the numbers, some kind of investigation by the department, to look at how sustainable is our present open and closed season, because I'm concerned about the very low numbers of opossum carriacou in particular that I'm seeing out there. So I think these are some things that need some attention. I need to mention it briefly, Chris.
You know, Byron, I hear you on the prettier larceny thing, and I'm almost getting COVID tired or getting prettier larceny tired.
Right.
Because of the fact that we've been talking so long about this heinous issue, this destroying people's fields, and agriculture is a thing where you have to spend time and money, and when you're about to reap, you're just moving, and and I know we've been trying to adjust the laws. We've been trying to get the police to be more reactive. We have deployed more vehicles. I think the latest thing that the Senator for Agriculture and the Senate raised was the issue with rural constables, and they having the authority to
power of arrest
and so on, and and I know the Minister of Agriculture is supposed to have this high up on the agenda, but I don't know, we're just not seeming to get it. And then Byron, I am of the view that you steal all the salive and time from this farmer lady in December. Who are you selling it to?
Mm-hmm.
And it must be both.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people who are buying these things and from people who cannot say where they get this from must be more severely impacted even from the people who are stealing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if you create and you remove the demand, then the supply obviously will get impacted.
So it should be consequential on both sides.
On both sides, and
Yeah.
probably just as severe.
Yeah.
So that we have people that take these things and steal and just go and sell openly without. And I know we spoke about having IDs and all of these things.
The idea has gone a long way.
Yes.
But you see, it's more applicable if you're going to sell to a formal place. Since if you go to Market and Border, you go to Real Value, you need to present your identification.
And then enforcement. It's not that we don't have laws, it's enforcing it and being consistent with the enforcement. And I think we really need to make examples of some of these people.
We're treating it too casual.
Too casual. And you can see it how in the media, I tell you, I saw that. This weekend gone, the front page was $700 stolen from gas station.
Right.
CID at the top level is investigating, it's getting the attention, the focus. And this woman who lost her livelihood.
Right.
It's no mention. Nobody knows. I must admit that a police was in the area doing some investigation, but I'm making the point that he didn't get the. It was just another one. I mean,
not to minimize what you're saying, which is because what you highlighted there really is the problem that needs to be sorted.
Yeah.
But just kind of looking at it from a different angle, it goes back to what Senator Diali said
Yeah.
about enforcement.
Yeah.
It may very well mean that when pretty larceny situations are reported to the rural constable or to the department, it is not elevated the way you report a robbery of a gas station to CID. As they get it,
Yeah.
they release. They send a press release to the
Yeah.
media,
Yeah.
so the media is aware. Maybe what is happening at pretty larceny is all the complaints and or reports are sitting somewhere, and it's not elevating up that
Yeah.
chain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
pretty larceny now needs
Yeah.
to become reported
Yeah.
as the gas station robbery, as the rape, as the through the CID
Yeah.
and up.
Yeah.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
That's probably
I mean,
what needs to happen. Because unless somebody calls and tells a person in the media,
Yeah.
hey, this happened,
Yeah.
and that person
Yeah.
follows the story, they won't be aware.
Yeah, and we have
Yeah.
rapid response units from
Yeah.
SSU and
That
so on.
is-
We probably need to have that
So
kind
the
of
communication arms need
you
to be
know,
more.
but
active.
Brian, you're getting to a
Chris-
point where you're getting tired with these
Chris, when you
things.
meet the people,
But you know what would happen, Senator Diali? When somebody lie down in
Yeah.
somebody farm, everybody open their
Yeah,
eye.
yeah.
Yeah.
But when you speak to the individual, I mean, this was in St. John's. Several of, and it wasn't one person, but I just pulled out one of them. And this is Christmas time. All the preparation that went into this, the expectation to harvest and to earn.
Of course, that's heartbreaking.
It was sad. I mean, it was heartbreaking.
Yes.
And the other part, this is immediate, but the downstream is the demotivation.
They won't want to plant again.
No,
Because
that's
you
the
know what
point.
somebody like that would want to do now?
Yeah.
Probably pick up the little red and green plastic bottles
Yeah.
and a trolley and start selling and
Yeah,
creating more instead of going into the land and doing something.
No,
So
it's
you know,
really,
you lose a passion, you just
Or the other farmer who has a couple and got there and 4 of the bunches are removed and they're bold. It's the hand on hand, as we say, in the field and taken out, and it's like, or citrus trees there, they clean the tree, and it's like it's becoming, they're bold.
Yeah.
And so on, and I don't know what's the ultimate solution.
when
I don't
a
know.
farmer levels somebody in their
Yeah.
field, then everybody will be reacting, man.
But we need
We
to
waited
talk
for
about
that.
it. It's unacceptable, we have to find ways and means of. But some things are happening. I mean, I know they have a team, and they're increasing the team of police officers doing investigations and follow up. The ID is an excellent. But I agree with you, Chris, that the buyers of these products, because they create a market. Because some of the thieves are not taken to sell themselves in the market, they're passing it to others to do this, So I think we all have a responsibility. And at one time they had this farm watch program where individual farmers would in fact take turns in. So I think farmers themselves probably need to get a bit more involved in the whole.
I think technology would help too.
Yeah.
Infrared cameras on farms, cameras in your fields, you link to your cell phone.
Yeah.
So you could lie down in
Yeah.
your bed at 3 o'clock
Yeah.
in the morning
Yeah.
and see movement in your, maybe all of these things would help.
Combination.
Yeah, I suppose so. And I mean, at the end of the day, but it's hard to tell a farmer who working on preparing the field and
Yeah.
getting plants and
Yeah, yeah,
planting
yeah. Real
and
hard.
nurturing
Yeah.
to tell them, you need to put up a camera here, a camera
No,
there.
it's state.
Watch your state. You know what I mean?
You have to watch your things.
Yeah, I mean,
it's true.
It's just I hear it and I know the
Yeah.
difficulty
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
some
But it's
farming
not
myself
so
and I know
fun.
what
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like.
yeah.
I mean, and it's it's really disheartening.
So
But
today,
anyway.
if you walk in and you meet somebody in your corn picking, what you gonna do?
No, and it's peas. He picked peas this
I
week.
can't say what I'm going to do on this program.
Exactly, and that's the reaction I wanted because you really do not know how you will react.
Yeah.
That's right.
You just don't know. So that is what you want to mitigate against. Because nobody could say what they would do.
Yeah. it's just
Nobody.
unacceptable.
You walk in there and you see this person just griping off all your
And
corn.
they're bold, eh?
Yeah, the
Yes.
ball, the
Or and if you say thing, you might find a cutlass in your face or a gun in your face. Or somebody ready to give you some blows.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Byron,
It's dangerous.
Probably just change the conversation. I think, agriculture,
yeah.
I have just invested in a hydroponic system, so I
Good.
am
Okay, so you
getting into
okay.
some
Who's
hydroponics.
your
Congratulations.
consultant here? With
Yeah, a local guy that is
Okay.
working with me. I think Leslie Smith. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, Monk Morris.
yeah.
Yeah, he has one.
That's right.
Yes.
So we're working and
Okay.
going to
Leslie
that. That's my new
Okay.
project for the
Okay,
year.
good, good,
I'm going
good.
to keep
Leslie
you informed
Smith
as
is
how
really
things are going.
Beautiful, beautiful,
Yeah, you
beautiful,
know.
beautiful.
Yeah,
And of
Leslie-
course, and on a more positive note, I think our Billfish tournament is
Next
is
week?
going to be starting next week. I know they had a launch earlier on this week
Yeah.
and last week, and
Yeah.
that's a positive. It will bring in visitors. I know people will complain and say, "Oh, we're bringing in people who will be positive and Omicron or this one and
Can
so
we have
on."
a tenant?
Yeah, but I mean, the economy needs to keep rolling. We need to provide release for people to enjoy themselves as
Yeah.
well. So,
But the Billfish
kudos
had
to the
something
Billfish people and the
Yes,
organizers.
yes,
I think
yes.
this is something because I think it was postponed last year.
Yes.
It didn't happen last year,
Yeah.
and they really went out of their way
And
to
the
try
year
and get it
prior
done
was
this
their
year.
40th anniversary.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Grenada Billfish is a huge
it's important,
thing.
it's important
Anytime
event.
you let's say you Google Billfish,
Yeah.
Grenada pops
Comes
up.
up.
And there's a great story of our Billfish, just how well we do it, the
That's right.
environmental way, how we catch and release. I mean, we get real high marks for that. And also, it is a great draw in terms of people who come to the island. About the COVID, the Billfish is in a bubble. If people come in on their boats, and I'm sure the committee, along with the Ministry of Health, will do all they can. They have lots of recreational activities
Yeah.
around
And
the
even
yacht,
that is
the
limited
yacht
this
club
year, too.
area,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then it also gives an opportunity to do the rapid testing.
Yeah.
You test people at every so often, how many days if the anglers go out, they come back, you see what's going on with them, that kind of thing. So I think it gives the organizers an ability to manage it. So in terms of the border control and all of that, it's normally heightened around that time because of the amount of trawlers we expect.
Yeah.
They are registered,
Yeah,
so you
that's
know
right.
who's
Yeah.
coming in and so on. So I think it can be whatever happens there, if it once planned properly, and I'm sure it is, based on who's involved in it, it will be controlled and contained.
Again,
It's an
Brenda,
important
we have to
national
live.
event.
We have to live.
Yeah,
We have
it's
to
important.
continue to
What I
live.
like about it is the environmental aspect, the catch and release. I think this is really great. And it's an important national event, and kudos to the organizers, and it's good for
And the folks
for
who
us,
keep
yeah.
sponsoring it,
Yeah.
Republic Bank, Sissons,
Yeah.
all these, companies who keep sponsoring
Yeah.
every year. It tells you something about the brand
Good thing,
of
yeah.
the
Yeah,
Billfish. So
definitely.
kudos to everyone. Mr. McIntyre, who does a lot of work every year, he's retiring, but he's in his blood. He can't
Yeah.
Love
retire.
it. Love it.
It's in his blood. And he's a very, very, very good angler as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard McIntyre, he certainly is. So it's great being back. Nice seeing you
Yeah.
gentlemen again.
Yeah.
It's great being here. Thank you so much to the team for successfully putting on air our first perspectives of 2022. Thank you so much to the viewers and listeners. Somebody just sent a message here cursing us for not being here last week. We regret that we did say when we were leaving, we did not inform you when we were returning. Yeah, we behave like a bad boy.
It's a
Eh?
technicality,
Yeah, we kind
yeah.
of behave like a bad boy there. We apologize for that. Of course, bad is typically gender specific. Yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone. MTV on air and online. We thank you so very much. Mikey Live. Thank you so much, Mikey, and your team for continuing to stream us. Partygrenada, we appreciate you. TNR Communications, thank you so very, very much. Sister Isles, there in Carriacou, Martinique, Carriacou preparing for Carnival. That's another conversation for another time. And everyone else, wherever you streamed us and looked at us this morning, we certainly appreciate it. Mr. Campbell and Senator Diali, thank you very, very much. Best wishes for 2022. Senator Diali, of course, coming in sparking this morning, coining a new phrase, political variance. Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout. All right? Those are variants we can't control. Remember that. Have a good day, everyone. I'm Brenda Batiste for executive producer Richie Oliver and Nazim Benjamin, who provided our professional streaming services, Blondell George, our director, and Kirk Oliver, our camera person. To have a good Monday and a good week. And see you again next Monday for another Perspectives. Bye-bye.